The House Workforce Development Committee will come to order. First item on the agenda is approving minutes. Lead Baker, have you had a chance to look at the minutes?
I have, Mr. Chair. I do approve them as presented.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carries. First bill this morning is House File 1098, Representative Jordan. Welcome to committee. I will make a motion that House File 1098 be laid over for possible inclusion. To your bill, Representative Jordan.
Thank you, Chair Zhang, and good morning, committee members. It's an honor to be here as the author of House File 1098. People with disabilities are disproportionately unemployed and often face barriers to obtaining and retaining employment. I've had the honor of touring and get to know MDI personally in my district and can tell you that the work they're doing is transformational. And I'm so grateful to all the committee members here who have also managed to tour MDI either in my district or on the Iron Range. And MDI has a mission that we've all seen, not just to employ people with disabilities themselves, but to help people with disabilities get jobs in their communities, in our communities, and to help businesses support their employees with disabilities. MDI is developing inclusive job skills training and is supporting businesses to create inclusive environments. This creates opportunities not only for people with disabilities, but for all populations that might be marginalized in their physical or mental capacities or life situations. MDI is also unique in their reach across Minnesota. I've already talked about how they have multiple sites across the state, and they have specifically envisioned their unified work program to reach people across the state, particularly in rural and outstate areas where individuals and businesses may not have access to job skills training. The bill before you is very straightforward. MDI is asking to renew its $450,000 annual appropriation from the Workforce Development Fund to continue its work of providing inclusive employment opportunities to individuals with disabilities and to receive a $1 million one-time appropriation to build out its exciting effort around unified work to bring the lessons they have learned about inclusive workplaces statewide. We talk a lot about how to create inclusive workspaces, not only that represent every individual's unique abilities, but also encourage individuals into the workplace to begin with. I'm excited for you to hear more about this organization. And with me, I'd like to hand it over to the CEO of MDI, Eric Black.
Welcome to committee, sir. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Eric Black. I'm the president and CEO of MDI. I appreciate the time, Mr. Chair, and committee members for the opportunity to speak with you about MDI. MDI is a 59-year-old organization that's been operating to create the best out of individuals that have other abilities. As the representative said, Jordan said, we have a site here in Minneapolis, one in Hibbing, Cohasset, and Grand Rapids, and we employ roughly around about 530 employees. Of those 530 employees, over 200 have a disability. So we've actually created an inclusive employment group that really does thriving work within these operations. We do kitting and packaging. We have a medical division. And we also do various distribution products, totes that service large customers like Amazon, FedEx, DHL, Uline. During this time, we've been able to see how people with disabilities really thrive in work environments. And we've continued to put programming in place that wraps them with everything they need to really express themselves through the soft skills that they have. We've been able to do this and create a social enterprise that really has grown over the years to more than a $30 million organization now. We couldn't do this without your help. The staff that we have there are committed to individuals, and they make things really special. They think about the individual and what they uniquely need. And once you've done that, you really create an environment that really functions. And if you've ever toured MDI, it's really tough to understand or see or identify visually who actually has a disability and who does not, because they're doing phenomenal work all together in one thing. We want to grow this. So one of the things that I've had the opportunity in my previous careers, I worked for Cargill for 23 years. And during that time, I did venture investing. I traveled the world handling our innovation and marketing. And I began to see that technology is the way of the future. But you have to have technology in a way that can be delivered, I would say disruptively, but really at a cost-efficient factor. And we've developed that with our STEM box. As we all know, jobs of the future are really growing to be more technical in nature. And we said, if we don't do something, individuals with disabilities will be have further barriers from employment. And so we've created a box over the last year. I'll kind of use this pictorial. This comes with a computer. It comes with microbiological slides, so looking at samples that come from humans as well as leaves and animals. We have our virtual reality, which allows individuals to have an experience before their experience. It comes with a microscope, and we're able to do all of this for about $125. We say nobody else has that capability or has done that, and we're building this on purpose to work for individuals with disabilities. But when it works for people with disabilities, it works for all people of other underserved communities across the state. So we think we have something uniquely here, and this is what we want to continue to partner with the state on. Before you in the slides are this type of technology being utilized in some of our current unified work class. There's a picture of me having some joy putting on a circus training class for individuals at our own facility. This is the way of the future, and we want to get in front of this. Not only where we actually employ individuals, but across the state, I think, is the critical part. Another thing that I've been able to do is I'm a member of the Minnesota Chamber Board of Directors. So I've been across the state. I get an opportunity to look at the things that economically affect our businesses and what are their issues that they are facing and how do we operate as a better state to help them grow. Well, one of the things I constantly hear is workforce, 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 as I'm sure many of you do as you talk to your constituents. We've said we believe that MDI has a solution that uniquely helps us help business leaders, and that's by helping them employ individuals with other abilities within their jobs. We know that they're focused on the day-to-day activities, whether it's a retail store, could be a hardware store, could be selling shoes to a pizzeria. But that's their focus. So how do we help them have the capabilities to introduce individuals with other abilities? Well, that's our unified work program. It has two attributes. One of them is on the business side, where we go to businesses, we help them form an internship program. We do training it helps them remove implicit biases. It helps them focus on individuals' abilities, providing them the things that they need, and it kind of wraps them with their all-around services. This makes it really easy for them to employ people and remove the barriers that they have today that allows them to focus on their business. So now we begin to introduce another group into our workforce that has been disproportionately excluded. Those individuals that go into the workforce, well, they need skills too, right? We talked about some of the science and technology skills that they need, but they also need soft skills. These are the skills that once you're in a work group that allow you to be an effective team member, allows you to express your needs as long as the needs with others that come into play. We talk about accommodations, and a lot of times businesses think those are highly expensive, and we actually find out that the vast majority of accommodations cost nothing, or they cost less than $500, and they benefit all employees within the organization. So Unified Work has a skill development and training course, and this course is something that we've piloted and we want to continue to do across the state. We had 5 pilots in our last year that we effectively executed, which we trained over 50 individuals with disabilities to be more effective at communication, understanding mission statements, but overall expressions and the things that need to happen across the state. We've formed partnerships with 9 different service providers, which continues to get us access to other individuals across the state, and we've had a level of success. We did a training down in Rochester with a partner called Maxability. It's a 4-day training, and on the 4th day, we actually toured Mayo. And when we did that, individuals were actually able to see some of the jobs. One of the participants, his name was Drew. He had lost his employment as a lifeguard during COVID and hadn't had employment since. He actually, after going through our training, applied for a job at Mayo and got a job as an endoscopy tech assistant, paying more than $20 per hour. In Brainerd, we did something a little bit different. We trained a class of women who had been previously incarcerated, some had drug and alcohol addiction in the past, and our goal for them was to have a course that was be your own CEO and develop 1-year goals. One of the participants in that class, it was clear that she was there for the gas card and lunch when class started. By the end of class, she came up and said, "Why had no one ever told me this before?" So we know that our training and development courses, once again, work for all individuals. So we're excited to get those out across the state. As our Representative Jordan said, we're looking for 2 things that we think is important. the base 450, that just keeps us going as our MDI and supports the over 200 individuals with disabilities that we have within our four walls. But the $1 million one-time ask is to grow this unified work program to benefit our state. Once again, getting out to a greater Minnesota where people have less access to these types of services, having an opportunity to mail out a $125 STEM box where they can then take online training. We're developing an online learning platform. Also take our virtual classes which are offered. So we believe with the partnership with the state that we can have an impact that continues to grow our businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Representative Weems.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Black and Representative Jordan. Got me excited about this. Boy, what I love is the accountability that you have built into this and that you have a track record. I'm looking at the STEM boxes, the 120, it's 125 bucks a piece, and that's what the $1 million is geared for. That's what I understand. And that will go to all communities or all individuals around the state. It's not just limited to those 4 sites so that people can link in and do the virtual and do the online stuff. Is there a particular metric or how many, I mean, if I did the math, 125 per million, is there a capacity issue that you have? Do you need to hire some more people to be able to reach? I'd like to hear a little bit more about that, Mr. Black.
Mr. Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, you're correct. And with this box, we're looking to get outside of our own 4 walls and communities as well. We have to continue to develop what I would call the programming that exists, right? We have our virtual reality, which we have currently a safety training course in virtual reality. We have a job training in light manufacturing, and we also have a interview training. So we have several platforms. We need to continue to develop those. Our learning management system has to continue to get increased to have more and more programming in it. So there is some background things that continue to need to happen to make this more and more effective. We're also not an IT company. So one of the things that's prevented us from mailing these out today to everybody is what happens in 3 weeks when the computer doesn't boot up. So we have to do some things around that. The $1 million will also support our mobile academy, so it'll continue to get us out. We've identified about 20 different communities that we believe we can go to in the state, so it'll also go toward our in-person training and development, really most of our community-based program outside our 4 walls. Of the participants that we talked about and our response rate from surveys, over 40, I'll say 42% of those individuals after going through our class actually got employment. So we are driven to outcomes. So you'll see both development and advancement of this. You'll see a number of boxes go out. And one of the things that we want to do is we've committed to coming back to the committee with a formal report on the outcomes that we've achieved and where these have actually gotten out to and the success we've had.
Representative Weems.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Black, Rep. Jordan. I'm excited about seeing the progress of this, and I'd definitely like to see the brick and mortar site in action, and as well as this rollout for your STEM boxes. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Lead Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say good morning again, Eric. It's good to see you. Again, Representative Jordan, this is a great organization. I'm so glad I was led into that great organization here in town. And I don't know if there's 150, 200 people on the plant floor. There was a lot of people. I think Eric knew every single one of them. Mm-hmm. And they looked to him for that leadership, and the morale was as high as I've ever seen in any place I've ever been to. They are busy. Nobody is sitting around doing anything. They're moving, and they're doing some really great work. So I just want to say thanks. This is a great bill, and this is one of the things that is really helping get our workforce expanded is through work for you. So thank you very much for this. Keep up the good work. Thanks.
Representative Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee members. Yes, please come to MDI. I drive past MDI every day on my way here and think about the great work that MDI is doing. When you think about we desperately need to grow our workforce, and people with disabilities is a big group of people who want to work and can work and be part of our workforce. So making sure that we are developing the ability to include these people in our workforce is something that we can do with this investment. So I hope you will consider this and include it in your omnibus bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Jordan. I will renew my motion that House File 1098 be later work for possible inclusion. Next is House File 555, another Representative Jordan bill. I will move that House File 555 be laid over for possible inclusion. Representative Jordan, to your bill.
Mr. Chair, I have an amendment as well.
I will move the A1 amendments. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Vote. Motion carries. The bill is amended. To your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And hello again, committee members. I have another way to grow some of the specific gaps within our workforce through another great organization that I represent, which is Eastside Neighborhood Services. House File 555 is a bill to provide $1 million to fund these workforce projects at Eastside. Half of that would be used for employment programs for both youth and seniors. And the other half would be used to fund the Nursing Assistance Plus program, which would expand the CNA training program. By way of background, Eastside Neighborhood Services is a nonprofit in the Sheridan neighborhood of my district that has served our community for over 100 years. They work to break down economic and social barriers for people of all ages. In addition to the programs I'll be discussing today, Eastside Neighborhood Services also runs a daycare, serves as a site for an alternative high school, maintains a food bank, develops programs for seniors, serves as a place where people vote in my neighborhood. They have a gym, and I could go on and on. They do so much more, and I want you all to know how much they really touch everyone in my district, and their reach does extend to all of yours as well. The two programs we are discussing today are critical to addressing both the shortage of workers and areas where we need workers specifically. We need the youth and seniors that I represent, and they would like to have these training and skills that Eastside provides them to join our workforce. Eastside stands ready to help. We also all desperately know that we need healthcare workers more than we ever have, and in particular, we really, really, really need CNAs. Eastside is ready to step in there as well. And to just talk about exactly how Eastside is serving our community, I have Eastside Neighborhood Services here. And I think we should go to them for testimony, Mr. Chair.
Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Paul May Kramer. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for hearing our testimony today on Bill 55. My name is Paul May Kramer. I'm the employment program developer at Eastside Neighborhood Services, and I'm joined here today by some of my colleagues, including Barbara Freeman, who is the Senior Community Service Employment Program member representing the program, the CSEP program today, whose testimony is in the state Senate, is in your packet. CSEP is a 55 and older job training program that serves 170 seniors each year in Hennepin County. We partner with over 50 organizations where seniors receive on-the-job training. We pivoted services during the pandemic where we provided support and training virtually and became a national model for other CSEP projects. This is the only program in Hennepin County that directly supports senior job seekers. But our success is limited. The budget from the Department of Labor allows us to survive, not thrive. The bulk of our $1.2 million budget goes to paying the seniors minimum wage for 20 hours of training a week. CSEP is run by one project director and seven senior staff who are also CSEP participating seniors. They run a payroll of $45,000 a week, $45,000 a pay period. And the Department of Labor is looking for quicker transitions from subsidized to unsubsidized work, and it's nearly impossible due to the staff capacity. Currently, our only method of outreach is word of mouth, which hinders the ability to engage more individuals who would likely benefit from our services. This funding would allow us to hire more staff and meet the DOL's goals, extend our outreach capabilities, engage more seniors in the workforce, and allow us to provide more health and supportive services, including our unique partnership with the LGBTQ community and elders group. Like CSEP, our employment programs need funding to increase staff and provide tailored services to meet the community needs. The Nursing Assistant Plus program addresses the universal shortages of nurses and would provide a more robust medical pipeline. Our proposed model would allow more flexible training to better match the schedules and foster partnerships with a focus on equity. We need to get more boots on the ground and engage youth who are not in stable housing and expand our paid internship programs through our WIOA program. A goal of our strategic plan is to foster collaboration across programs using an intergenerational approach. This funding would help us fully integrate our CSEP program, Youth Employment and Nursing Assistant Plus program, providing intergenerational trainings, mentorship, and classes. Thank you for the opportunity to provide background on Eastside's bill.
Discussion. Representative Baker.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I got excited when I saw senior job seeker training. This is exciting. I hadn't heard that before, and I think this is a really kind of a new approach to things. Learning some new skills and so on. I think this is great. That's a great idea. But I do have a question for you, and this is from other days we've seen and heard testimony here in our committee about there's other nonprofits that are actually getting out of the nursing business, and they're having problems with that. I'd like to ask you if you've really understood why they're getting out of it and the struggles that they were having, and why is this right for your organization? Because again, it sounds great. We need them, but there was a reason some of them were getting out of it. I don't recall that, but just help me understand a bit of the background of one of the few that's standing this program up, and where others are sort of saying this isn't the best fit for us. So maybe help us with that.
Thank you very much for the inquiry. In my experience, nursing assistants gained popularity in workforce like as a trend because it was a certificate that was achievable in a short period of time, and it connected someone to the medical field, a really prestigious field. It's pretty neat to go from not having any certification, maybe not being able to check that box that says some college, and then be able to say that you can check that box, and then you have this nationally, or the weight of the state is backing this person now. That's really a powerful narrative, and it really looks good in the numbers. And the way that these things have been structured, but however, there's a flaw with that, and that is, even after all of this training, the graduates of these programs go to survival wages. They're not moving into a career, they're moving into the opportunity to form a career, which is really what we're talking about. We're holding on. It's not that we're moving away, and it's not that it's wrong to move away, but we're acknowledging that gap between that narrative of explosive success and the reality. And we want to be able to have our microphone here. We want to be able to to fill that gap with those supportive services, and almost look at it like a fellowship, in where you're allowing someone to move into a space and then supporting them until they move into that postdoc, that doctorate. The other thing is, traditionally this has been supported through a cohort model, and that's universal. Everyone, let's get 15 people together, we'll all get on the same schedule, and we'll all go to class at the same time, we'll graduate at the same time. And that doesn't seem to be working anymore. It's too hard to get. The concept of a schedule has kind of shattered in the last few years, and people are doing things virtually. They have new pressures. They have new health pressures. Their families are expanding, and the idea of getting these 15 people together it's becoming impossible. That's what everyone in my field is talking about. So what we've been able to do is partner with a number of organizations and support people at an individual and small group level, which is something that people have not been doing. So if someone can only do nights, they come to us and they're ready to make a change in their life. They want to do this. They see the value of it. They're ready to commit this time. We're in a position now to say, what does your schedule look like, as opposed to, I'm sorry, you don't have day availability, you're going to have to try the next person, or we'll see you in a few months, when their schedule has completely changed.
Representative Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't disagree with you. Again, I think there's some challenges ahead for that program, so just make sure you understand that if you happen to be awarded this, and again, to Representative Jordan on this, it's something that we should make sure we're diving into, because there's a reason some others are getting out. The scheduling thing is an issue. People don't want to work 24/7 and have that schedule, but we don't have a choice. People need service, around the clock. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Zalesnikar.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Representative Jordan, for bringing this bill. I wanted to speak to a couple topics. One on the amendment that speaks to readiness for internships, which I'm a big fan of. The age range you speak to is 14 to 24. I think we're going to have to line up some other internship language throughout committees, because when you look at the trades and you look at on-the-job readiness, 16, 17-year-olds in work readiness programs, being able to work in the trades, being able to work in healthcare, I think if we don't do that, is short-sighted. So I applaud you for these initiatives, because when I'm going to see trades in the schools, in the public schools, that's what the teachers are saying. We need to be able to get these kids earlier before they graduate so they can be successful. We need to give them pathways for paid internships. So that, I think, is wonderful. On the CNA piece, I think, I wonder your thoughts on if there's limitations for the people you serve with the licensing fee to become a CNA, if you're paying for that, because I know during the pandemic, there was initiatives to pay for the CNA course for people, and now that has ended. So I'm hearing feedback that CNAs just can't pay for the actual, they go through the class that could have grants for that, but then there is nothing for the license fee. So I'm wondering your feedback on that.
Mr. Nate Kramer.
Thank you. Budgeted in the bill is the cost of those licensing fees, in addition to essentially an invitation to success, which includes scrubs. It includes everything that you would need to embody this new career path. Additionally, there's money in there for catastrophe support. Someone simply can't get to their training anymore, or their first few months of work because their car has completely died. Yeah.
Representative Zalesnikar.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your response. My second, I guess, thought is just the difficulty. When I looked at your financials, because I like to look at how things are going, and it looks like from your revenue, from your in-kind donations, look to me like they've went down from 2020. From 2020, they were 1.5 million. They went to about 990,000 in 2021, and then what caught my eye is that a revolving credit line of 250,000. I'm very familiar with that because the nursing home business and the assisted living business is in a revolving credit line too. So this, the ability for individuals and corporations to give for nonprofits is definitely seeing a change, and the business for-profit companies are suffering too right now. And so with that said, I think the piece that you spoke to of the wage, the CNA, that piece is funded by the bodies here. And if the CNAs, 80% of those costs are medical assistance dollars, the facilities cannot, nursing homes have rate equalization, they cannot increase rates anywhere else. So it is this body that has jurisdiction. And so if we don't deal with that piece, the programs you're developing, they exit it. They go work at Walmart, they go work other places. I've seen it for the last, it started long before COVID, and it just finalized it in COVID. But we have to make it, and on top of that, when they come to work, it has to be an atmosphere they want to work in. So I commend you for the things you're doing to develop them on the other skills, because shift work is a different animal and has different responsibilities, and we have to prepare people for this and then have a supportive team to accomplish it, because they need that. The training is a piece of it, but then on-site mentorship with the providers, and when the providers are stressed, there is not that adequate mentorship for a new CNA and a new hire. So I think these programs are going the right direction. I commend you for continuing the CNA and the getting seniors to work, because we need all these people. We have 300 nursing homes and 1,700 assisted livings in Minnesota throughout the state. And so it's a huge need right now. So thank you.
Last question, Representative Sencer-Mura.
Thank you, Chair Zhang. I'll be brief. It's not a question. Just wanted to say thank you, Representative Jordan, for bringing this bill. Really familiar with the great work that Eastside does. Really support the CSEP program. I think has been mentioned, it's a really unique program. We don't see other programs like that are serving our seniors. I think, we need to be continually thinking about how do we continue to support seniors, and we're having lots of conversations at the legislature about how to do that. But I think a program that is targeting specifically low-income seniors, helping bring them in the community, helping them provide them with job training is really essential. So thank you for your work.
Closing statement, Representative Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee members. I want to emphasize that if you put this in your omnibus bill, you can feel good that these programs will work because they're already working. These are existing programs that Eastside Neighborhood Services is doing, and Eastside Neighborhood Services has served all of us for well over a century, and I know that they will continue to do so, and we can help them help us with our workforce issues. And so I hope you will consider their funding in your omnibus bill, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Representative Jordan. I will renew my motion that House File 555 as amended be laid over for possible conclusion. Next bill, House File 2303, Representative Wolgamott. I will make a motion that House File 2303 be laid over for possible conclusion. Welcome to the committee, Representative Wolgamott, to your bill.
Good morning, Chair Zhang and committee members. I am so excited and grateful for the opportunity to present to you House File 2303, which is a bill to appropriate $463,000 for a grant to the Boys and Girls Club of Central Minnesota. Mr. Chair, members, I'm excited to bring this bill before you because actually this might be one of my favorite bills I've presented yet this year, because my family has been able to see firsthand the tremendous impact that the Boys and Girls Club of Central Minnesota has in our community. For the past 11 years, I have trusted the Boys and Girls Club of Central Minnesota to care for my daughters, Lily and Polly, and they have benefited so much from that experience. And Mr. Chair, I want to make sure that other families in our community, that more families in our community can have the opportunity that my daughters have had to learn, to grow, to become successful people through their experiences with the Boys and Girls Club of Central Minnesota. That's why I'm bringing this bill forward. What the bill does, Mr. Chair, members, of that $463,000, $313,000 of that is to fund a 1 year of free full-service programming for a new program to employ part-time youth development staff and provide community volunteer opportunities for people of all ages. And a significant dimension of this will be career exploration and life skills programming. And then the additional $150,000 is for planning and design for a new multi-use facility for the Boys and Girls Club of Central Minnesota to be located in Waite Park, but available to serve families and people from all over the Central Minnesota region. That's why I'm bringing this bill forward. That's what the bill does. And with that, Mr. Chair, I've got some testifiers who are here to provide more information on what this appropriation would go to. And then, of course, we'll be more than happy to answer any of your or the members of your committee's questions that you may have. Thank you.
Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Oh, thank you. Hi, my name's Deb Nebesis. I work with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Minnesota, and we're so excited about this bill as well. Waite Park is a community within the greater St. Cloud community. We have services right now in St. Cloud. We do serve Waite Park youth at 3 of our Boys and Girls Clubs, our free programs in St. Cloud, and also some of our childcare, after-school childcare programs in the community, but nothing specifically in Waite Park. And we have a lot of kids in that district. There's about over 2,000 kids that need services there. They can get busing from their schools sometimes to our other clubs, not all the time. So there isn't consistent transportation to get them to our existing clubs. So we need something in that neighborhood. So, and it's not just Boys and Girls Clubs. We need senior activities in the area as well, volunteer opportunities. So this is a collaborative with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Minnesota, the City of Waite Park, the Waite Park Police Department, the Greater St. Cloud Public Safety Foundation, and Stearns County. So our ultimate mission, and it's kind of addressed in this bill, is to build a full-service Boys and Girls Club and Senior Center in Waite Park, relatively close to the schools where kids can walk without having to cross major roadways, which is an issue in the Waite Park community. But that takes a little bit of time. We found some locations, we've got some potentials for some in-kind donations of land, but we're looking at a $3 to $5 million project. So we can't raise that money overnight, obviously. We've started the process of a capital campaign working with all of these partners, and we're really feeling positive about that. But what we're seeing is that so many of these kids don't have the services they need right now. Waite Park, according to their police chief, who is deeply involved in this project, has a substantial issue with sex trafficking, drug usage, a considerate lack of positive activities for youth, and then a tremendous amount of behavioral mental health calls in the community. So positive programming is needed immediately, and that's what this bill would address. We would start a new Boys and Girls Club in partnership with District 742, which is our area school district in the St. Cloud community. They're going to give us in-kind space in the Discovery Community School, which is actually an elementary school, which is great. And we have a really good partnership with them. And that's the other thing I wanted to highlight is all of the partners here, these aren't people we just newly pulled together. These are people that we've worked with for a long time. And that's why we feel really confident that we can get this project built. So we're going to, in the short term, be working in Discovery Elementary School, starting this summer, partnering with the PAL program through the Waite Park Police Department to provide services. This program is going to serve kids 5 through graduation from high school. And in the St. Cloud community, we have a high immigrant, new to country population. High school graduation does not mean 18 in the St. Cloud community. It can mean up to age 21. So we're going to be providing these programs, meals, workforce development, academic success in an elementary school, which is going to be really good in the short term. But serving high school seniors in a school that's built for little kids is not going to be perfect. And that's why we feel really confident that because of the need, we'll be able to achieve our goal in acquiring or building a new facility as well. So thank you for the opportunity. I'm really happy to answer any questions that you have about this program.
Discussion. Representative Weems.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Wolgamott. And ma'am, I didn't catch your name again.
Deb Nemesis.
Ms. Nemesis. I'm really encouraged by this, that it's really a community project, and it's a lot of, there's public money, of course, but the private donations, business community, and how you brought all the different partners together. I'm encouraged by that, and that it's a bipartisan bill. A friend of mine in the Senate is carrying it there, Senator House. So I will support this. I am curious about if there's a goal of how many, I'm a metrics guy. So with the space that you will build out, what number of students and youth do you think? And I'm also encouraged that there's seniors. So
Yes.
if you can give me an idea of how many people that you intend to serve.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking at about a 30,000.
Through the chair.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
We're looking at about a 30,000 square foot facility, which is similar in size to a building that we already own and program out of our Southside Boys and Girls Club. We can serve at that facility 300 kids a night. On average right now, sort of building back from the pandemic, we're serving 150, on a high night, 200 kids. So we'll have plenty of capacity. And because this is going to be multi-generational programming with seniors and youth, seniors during the day, youth after school, and then some overlap, we're really excited that we can be serving up to 100 seniors in the facility as well.
Representative Weems.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Logan. Thank you.
Representative Escar.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Representative Wolgamott. I'm very familiar with the Boys and Girls Club and have always been a big fan of it. I always like to look at the board of directors, and it sounds like this area of the state has a very strong business presence and community presence to bring something forward like this. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about how you see this program's financial health right now.
Ms. Nemesis.
Of course. Are you talking about this specific program or Boys and Girls Club in general?
In general.
Ms. Nemesis.
Of course, thank you. Actually, we are in fairly good shape right now financially. The pandemic years we expected would be sort of the end of fundraising. So our Boys and Girls Club, we have two different pieces. We have a fee-based program, which is our Kids Stop program for families that can afford it. If they can't, we have a very robust scholarship fund to make sure that kids who need the program are able to get it. We've also been able to access some state dollars to keep those programs running. It's been very difficult throughout the pandemic, so we've used some of the stabilization grants and financial hardship grants to keep those programs going. Our fundraising, hasn't been as difficult as we expected. Our donors in our community are very invested in the Boys and Girls Club. We've been around for nearly 50 years in our community, have a really good track record, have a lot of partners, so what we can't provide, we find a partner to provide it in our program. So we have been very lucky in the fact that we have been able to run at a slight deficit for the last couple of years, but because we had been careful planners the last probably 25 years, we did have reserves to help us. So we are in a relatively good financial shape right now and comfortable with it.
Representative Escar.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that response. So can you, do you have an endowment right now? Can you tell me how much you have in your reserve?
Ms. Nemesis.
Yes, we do have an endowment fund right now. We had a donor a number of years ago who gave a really significant contribution, a $3 million endowment fund. Now, it's been a difficult year, obviously, in the market, but we do have some reserve dollars that we're using to run the clubs.
Representative Escar, last question.
Thank you, Chair. And I ask that because this committee has a lot of asks. So I want to, this is extremely valuable programming. Just want to know what the financial state of the union is for this program specifically, not questioning its merit at all, just looking at that broader question of financial status of where it's at right now. So thank you very much. And thank you for all you do. It's a fabulous thing to do for the community and the kids. Thanks. And seniors.
Closing statement, Representative Wolgamott.
Well, thank you again, Chair Zhang and members of the committee for the opportunity to present House File 2303. While this is a one-time appropriation, investing in the Boys and Girls Club of Central Minnesota with this appropriation will benefit students and seniors and families in Central Minnesota for a lifetime. Thank you for the opportunity to present, and I urge your full consideration for House File 2303 in your Finance Omnibus Bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members.
I will renew my motion that House File 2303 be laid over for possible conclusion. Thank you, Representative Wolgamott. Next is House File 2194, Representative Agbaje. Is she here? We'll go to the next bill, Representative Sencer-Mura, House File 1573. Representative Sencer-Mura will move that House File 1573 be laid over for possible inclusion. Welcome to committee, Representative Sencer-Mura, to your bill.
Thank you, Chair Zhang, Vice Chair Brand, and members of the committee. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present House File 1573. 1573 renews the workforce appropriations of $300,000 a year that the YMCA of the North has received in the last biennium. I want to start today with talking about one of my favorite proverbs, which is, if the youth are not initiated into the village, they will burn it down just to feel its warmth. I know that Representative Hassan has come before the committee before and talked about the need for youth programs, youth employment programs, specifically in Minneapolis, due to just the increase in antisocial behavior that we've seen from our youth, and the need to really make sure that we are, as a community, wrapping our arms around our young people, providing them with skills, bringing them into the workforce, and making sure that they can be successful. I see no one who is better prepared to do that than the YMCA, which has longstanding expanding relationships with young people and families. The YMCA is the largest youth employer in the state through camps, childcare, aquatics, youth development programs, and more. Previous workforce appropriations have been used on the Y's Career Pathways program that provides job skills and career readiness, and internship program that serves youth ages 14 to 24. The YMCA of the North is deeply committed to equity and inclusion. To that end, this appropriation has been focused on partnering with youth from underserved communities to connect them to early employment on a path to careers and in high-demand fields. Funds have been previously used for program staffing, youth internship wages, as well as other expenses to address barriers to employment, such as transportation. I'm respectfully asking that this bill gets continued to be considered for inclusion in the omnibus bill. And I have a testifier here today to talk about the great things that the YMCA of the North does for Minnesota. And I would now like to turn it over to a former participant. The testifier today is Ethan. Thank you, Ethan, for being here.
Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Ethan Balikalaba.
You can go ahead.
Go ahead and proceed, Mr. Bali Kalaba.
Thank you, Chair. So I just came here today to talk about my experience with the Y. I've been with the Y in various programs for about 7 years now, but specifically in this Career Pathways internship, I've been in it for about 3 years. And in that time, I've been able to develop specifically like job skills, like how to work with others, how to learn about yourself. But the part that I like about it the most is that like through this pathway, you're able to learn the soft skills that they don't necessarily prepare you for in school for jobs. It's a way for like teens like me and other people, like specifically from like these underrepresented groups that don't really have people to lead us or show us how to properly function in a work setting. We have a way to like experience a little bit of it, have a taste through these different, through these different skills and these different jobs that we do. Like say like camp counselor or aquatics or working at the front desk. By being in this internship and having the ability to actually earn wage and actually work with other people who know what they're doing and have somebody to mentor you and guide you as you like try to navigate into like adulthood really helps. And I find that it's been a big part in shaping who I am as a person due to like the trainings that we get. Because over the summer, while you're working, every Friday you go down to the building, the main office building, and we train. We work on different things. We learn about how credit works. We learn how to be a better worker. We learn about our personalities so that way we can mesh well with others. And we learn a bunch of different other stuff that helps us be better adults. So thank you.
Thank you. Discussions. Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Sencer-Mura, for bringing this bill. I used to be on an advisory board for the North Y a long time ago when the focus was on just youth and enrichment. And I will say I often talk about the fact that there were programs like this when I was growing up on the south side of Chicago that are the reason I'm sitting here today. Without those programs, without the engagement, I love what you cited at the beginning, that proverb. Without that engagement and integrating and wrapping our arms around me in the community, I wouldn't be here right now. So thank you for bringing this program, and I hope we can provide resources for it because it's vital and it's important for our communities. Thank you.
Representative Brand.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say quickly, when you mentioned camp counselors, it just dawned on me back in the day when I was younger. I actually worked as a camp counselor at YMCA Camp de Nord, way up north in Ely. And so I'm happy to support the bill. I've already got my name on the bill, but I think that the mission and what it gets accomplished is really important. And so thanks a lot for being here today.
Representative Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Rep. Sencer-Mura, for this bill. There is an African prophet that says it takes a village to raise a child. Our young people need guidance, they need support, they need all the help they can get so they can become productive members of society and contributing members of society. So either we help them now with all they need, or we help them a lifetime. We don't want to help them a lifetime. We want them to grow up and be part of our economy and contribute to society. So it's programs like this and many other programs who are working with young people that shed a light on what hope looks like. So thank you for this bill.
Closing statement, Representative Sencer-Mura.
Thank you, Chair Zhang. Thank you, committee members, and thank you, Ethan, for testifying. I think a lot of what you said really illustrates the beautiful work that this program does, and I hope that we can include it in the omnibus. Thank you.
Representative Sencer-Mura will renew her motion on House File 1573, be laid over for possible inclusion. House File 2194, I saw Representative Agbaje is here, so we will go back to that bill. I will renew the House File 2194, be laid over for possible inclusion. Welcome to the committee, Representative Agbaje, to your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. So I'm here to present House File 2194 that is seeking $1 million to provide job training and placement for those who need it. The funds would be used to support Black Women's Wealth Alliance programming, and that's a program that supports Black women seeking to become entrepreneurs, homeowners, or continue their education, all for the purposes of building wealth for their families and communities. Black Women's Wealth Alliance is a group that has been around since 2014 with the purpose of helping Black women improve their economic and financial situation. The BWWA has worked with entrepreneurs to get their businesses off the ground and help them succeed. Yet businesses also need skilled employees. And BWWA seeks to support this to provide culturally affirming trainings and resources to women seeking to improve their economic lives by learning skills for a job and eventually moving into a career. I'm joined today by the founder and CEO of BWWA, Kenya McKnight-Ahad, who can talk more about the importance of this work.
Welcome to the committee, Ms. McKnight. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. My name is Kenya McKnight-Ahad, founder and CEO of the Black Women's Wealth Alliance. The work we do really uplifts the core financial provider in the Black community, which is Black women. And as you may know, 80% of African American Black women are the primary breadwinners of their household. But that is not equally met with opportunity to really sustain and care for their household, which makes our work essential to uplifting their economic aspirations to build wealth. In that, we've served nearly over 4,500 Black women across the state. We are located in North Minneapolis. That's where we grew. That's where we're from. And that's who we primarily serve. But we do have a base of women that come to our programming from St. Paul, Brooklyn Center, and some areas in the suburban places in Minnesota. In that, what we strive to do is to help these women take control of their financial futures by providing them with wealth education through a cultural lens with the specific purpose of building wealth by which they identify. That's really important for us to be able to manage the resources we have, but position ourselves to build stronger futures as entrepreneurs, as workers, as mothers and caregivers of not only our households, but our families. Some of the businesses we work with are in the startup and mid stages, where they've been in business for a while, but they need to grow skills to further operationalize their companies that will grow workforce opportunities within our community. In that, we also have women who are aspiring to be homeowners. We've trained over 200 Black women across the state to acquire their first-time homeownership, certifications, and at least 45 of them have obtained homeownership in the last 3 years of that work that we've done. In that, we've also support Black women who are striving to improve their career, relations, and opportunities through our Miss CEO training that provides them with what I call the fundamentals of ACT, administrative communication and technology skills that would help them not only increase their value proposition in the workplace, but to improve their ability to be hired for higher roles because of the skills that they know and how they work within the system of their the jobs, be it corporations. We strive to get them into the middle, management roles. As you may know, at least 35% of Black women in Minnesota jobs are concentrated in low-wage occupations. And so our goal is to grow that to middle and higher occupations that would allow them to earn a good quality of life to care for their families, as mostly maybe 50% of Black children are born under poverty. So part of how we solve this problem is by taking care of its primary caregiver, which is Black women. And that's why we're doing the work we do. the resources that you give us will help us grow our capacity to serve more Black women. The demand is often greater than our capacity because, as you may know, again, most of the population in the African American community is primarily female. And we are the only Black women-owned, led, and focused institution in the state of Minnesota. We're not a program, we're an entire institution. And because of that, the demand for who we are even expands to greater Minnesota, which we don't have the current capacity to serve. But this funding will help us do more. We're proud of the work that we have done, which also extends to Black girls, right? Because they're proud to see their mothers in these spaces and mothers who want to see their girls have a stronger opportunity than they did at their ages. So your resources to us will help grow our opportunity to serve more women by including more staff on our team, but also to support the continued operations of our programs. I think that is it. Now, stop for questions.
Discussion. Seeing no discussion, closing statement, Representative Agbaje.
Thank you, Chair Zhang. Thank you to the committee. I hope that you all will look favorably on this as you put your bill together, and thank you for your support and time today.
All right, I will renew my motion that House File 2194 be laid over for possible inclusion. Next is House File 1939, Representative Sencer-Mura. Representative Sencer-Mura will move that House File 1939 be laid over for possible inclusion. I believe you have an amendment. What was it, E1? A DE1 amendment.
Yes, thank you, Chair Zhang. The DE amendment makes some changes to the bill based on conversations with stakeholders, some conversations with the chair, conversations with Dolly. I think the most significant thing it does is it brings the appropriation down from 10 million to 1 million in the first mill, 1 million in the first year and 2.5 million in the second year. It also takes out some of the pre-apprenticeship language based on conversations with Dolly to ensure that we could, partner with the program if they already have, rather than, kind of seek to replace any program they might have.
All those in favor of DE1 amendment say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Amendment is adopted. To your bill as amended.
Thank you, Chair Zhang, Vice Chair Brand, and members of the committee for hearing House File 1939 today. So the clean economy workforce in Minnesota is growing. According to Clean Energy Economy Minnesota, nearly 58,000 Minnesotans worked in energy efficiency and clean energy in 2021. The biggest sector of the Minnesota clean energy industry is energy efficiency, representing almost 73% of the state's clean energy workforce. So we know that the state and federal government have taken actions to accelerate the clean energy transition, and this will only accelerate the growth in our clean energy economy sectors. The Federal Inflation Reduction Act is estimated to make $370 billion in climate investments over the next 10 years. And as we all know, last month, Minnesota took another major step toward a clean economy when our legislature passed and the governor signed into law the bill to reach 100% clean energy in Minnesota by 100% carbon-free electricity by 2040. Minnesota's transition to a clean economy is an opportunity to create a more equitable economy. There was a recent op-ed from Minnesota Foundation leaders in the Star Tribune that stated, "We know the real work lies ahead, particularly to ensure that all Minnesotans, especially those most impacted, are included in and will benefit from the transition of our economy to create a more just and abundant future where we all can thrive." So we can look to other Midwest states as examples for how to do this. Illinois recently committed over $40 million in investments in equitable workforce development career pathways to support their state's clean energy transition. HF 1939 puts equity at the center of the clean energy workforce transition in our state. It creates a new grant program to support organizations with the skills, ambition, and strong networks within communities of color to develop and implement green workforce readiness programs. These funds would help prepare individuals for careers in construction, clean energy, and energy efficiency by supporting workforce training, career development, employment placement, and culturally appropriate job readiness. HF 1939 would expand the field of workforce training providers by supporting new entrants into the field. And the bill would ensure that high-quality training pathways are developed by encouraging partnerships with registered apprenticeship programs. The Minnesota Climate Action Framework, released in September of last year, issued a clear call for investment in workforce training to support the clean economy transition with a focus on communities of color and indigenous communities. The report further calls for specific actions, including increasing the number of apprentices in the construction trades, registered apprenticeship programs, and the percentages of people of color and women who enroll in and complete these programs. HF 39 responds to this call for equity and puts communities of color at the center of the clean economy transition in Minnesota, and I hope that we can include this in the omnibus. I would like to now turn it over to my testifier, Dr. Kate Knuth.
Welcome to committee. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I'm Dr. Kate Knuth, Managing and Research Director of the 100% Campaign. The 100% Campaign is a cross-sector, statewide, multiracial, intersectional campaign to build an equitable and clean climate and clean energy future that works for everyone in Minnesota. We have nearly 60 organizational endorsers to date. And I'm here to support House File 1939, a bill that invests in a clean economy, equitable workforce development program. Last month, as the representative said, Minnesota passed a 100% clean energy bill, committing us to carbon-free electricity by 2040. Governor Walz's climate action framework commits Minnesota to an economy-wide carbon-neutral economy by 2050. Both of these commitments will require a whole lot of work and workers to achieve. According to the recent report by the Clean Energy Economy Minnesota, nearly 58,000 Minnesotans go to work in the clean energy economy currently, and this number continues to grow every year. I think of making the transition to a equitable, clean energy, and climate resilient future as a puzzle. We need to put together the policy commitments and the funding and financing to make the transition happen. With the passage of 100% clean energy, we have a huge piece of the puzzle. Even more, the bill contained really important equity commitments to make sure the energy transition is equitable. The significant federal investments in the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act mean we have even more pieces of the puzzle in place, and these federal investments also prioritize equity. On top of the federal investments, if Minnesota passes investments in a state competitiveness fund and climate innovation finance authority this year, we'll go even further toward having the finance and investment parts of the puzzle in place. But here's the thing, as I said before, this transition will take a lot of work and workers. We need to build the workforce part of the clean energy transition puzzle, and that is what House File 1939 helps to do. It will help us build the clean energy workforce and do so in ways that build equity by prioritizing groups historically left out of workforce development and prioritizing partnerships, which will enable pathways not just into jobs, but into better paying union jobs that are more likely to come with family sustaining wages and benefits. Building pathways for Black, Indigenous, Brown, and new American communities into family-sustaining clean energy careers is essential for making sure our clean energy transition is equitable. It's the right thing to do. It is also necessary if we're going to reach our clean energy goals and commitments. We need more Minnesotans to join the workforce to make this clean energy transition happen. Simply put, there's so much work to do. We need everyone to step up and join the workforce. For example, a recent study by the Center for Energy and the Environment found that to weatherize and electrify all 1 to 4 unit residential buildings in the city of Minneapolis, it would take a workforce of at least 1,000 people to do so. That workforce does not yet fully exist. And this is one part in one city, albeit the biggest city in our state, of the puzzle we need to create to build the workforce to make the clean energy transition happen. If we don't make sure that more Minnesotans, particularly Black, Brown, Indigenous, and new American Minnesotans, have the opportunity to join the workforce of the clean energy and climate transition, all of Minnesota will be worse off. We will fall short of our clean energy and climate commitments. I ask that you support House File 1939, and I'm grateful to the author and the many folks in our community working to make this important policy happen. Please support it, and I hope you will include it in your omnibus bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
Discussion. Representative Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess I might have a few questions, and maybe Deed has to come down and answer a few of them too, because maybe Representative, has this idea been floated through the legislature before? I mean, we've had clean energy ideas, solar community gardens. We've got, Made in Minnesota, the solar program. We've had a lot of investments in Minnesota jobs for, I want to say, at least 10 years. And I'm wondering, this is coming at a time when we're trying to build up something kind of new, I think, and so correct me if I'm wrong, but it appears it's extremely sliced out with anybody who wants to work in the field, unless, but it may not include everybody. So if you want to include, let's say, whites as well, does that pose a problem for this? And so just the history of maybe where this is going to go and how you envision this, and again, maybe it requires Dee to come up here and give us an explanation about how they envision this as well. So I'd like to hear some of that.
Representative Sencer-Mura.
Yeah, thank you, Lead Baker, for the question. As someone new to the legislature, I might not be the best person to ask about the history of these kind of bills. I think the intent from this specific program and why we are really focused on communities of color and indigenous communities is that they have not received the funding from DEED in the past to do this kind of work. And so I think that's why we also in the bill specifically talk about trying to prioritize new entrants into the field. This is really focused on, we have a lot of community organizations that I think have been really, dedicated to climate justice work, that have really been dedicated to organizing in the community. And they now see a really, large opportunity, large opening with some of our climate policies to get into the workforce development space that they have not been in before. So I think that's why it's focused specifically on communities of color and indigenous communities. I think it would be, we should have, as Dr. Kate Knut said, we have 1,000 jobs that we need filled. I think that there's a lot of room for lots of people to get into those jobs. I don't know about the other kind of programs that DEED has that are not specifically focused on these communities, but I do see a reason why we need a specific program that does focus on these communities. Thank you.
Representative Baker.
Mr. Chair, again, and maybe if Dr. Knut knows this question, otherwise I'll ask somebody from DEED to come down and answer this. Again, we've had a number of industries in Minnesota working already in this field. Do we have background information about how much have we reached out to those communities of color now to encourage them to come in and get very well-paying jobs in this field? What's triggering it today that hasn't triggered it the last several years, I guess? And again, if this is an unfair question, maybe DEED can share us what they've done before too, to try to understand how bad is it, and how do we know that the BIPOC community isn't being reached into, and I just want to know how big this problem is. I've never heard of this before, and I want to really understand this better.
Dr. Knut.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Baker. I can't speak to DEED specifically, but I can speak to some of the groups and folks behind the need for this bill, and their community organizations and leaders made up of and led by people of color and indigenous people in the state of Minnesota. And they are not seeing the access to the workforce training and the pathways into not just jobs, but careers in this really expanding field of clean energy transition. And so I'm following the lead of the communities this will serve and saying that this is a gap that currently exists and needs to be filled if we're going to have the equitable clean energy transition happen. And frankly, I would say the clean energy transition happen more broadly, because we don't yet have the workers and workforce needed to make the transition happen.
Representative Baker.
Mr. Chair, could I have somebody from DEED come down? I have a question for them.
Welcome to the committee, Ms. Dannon. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Ariel Dannon. I'm the Government Relations Director at DEED. Happy to attempt to answer your questions, Representative Baker.
Thank you so much. And again, maybe you can give us a little background, Ms. Dannon. How has DEED in the past worked out to try to be involved with either other nonprofits or community organizers that they're looking for today that has tried to get folks into this area? Do you think this is a good fit for DEED to try to, kind of dive into the specific, really the clean energy sector, because you're very broad based on this. Any background on DEED's programs to date when it comes to reaching out to the BIPOC community for this type of a field?
Ms. Dannon?
Representative Baker, Chair Zhang, Representative Baker, thanks for the question. So I'm going to answer. So we do at DEED have a project that folks may have seen in the paper that's rolled out. It's a partnership with Excel, and it is looking to train folks. It's in the energy space. So Excel has identified that they do have a shortage of workers in their pipeline. A lot of that shortage does come from folks who are non-white. So folks who might not initially think of going into the fields that they're looking to hire a workforce from. So we do have some experience. That's our first partnership here. I will note we do have a number of items, and I think we'll be in front of this committee probably in the next week or two, talking about the governor's budget recommendations. In those recommendations, we have identified kind of in two places in our workforce proposals. One where we're proposing that we focus our workforce efforts on what we call the sort of 5 main industries where we've identified high demand and high wages. Those industries do encompass the industries discussed in this bill. So they're not quite as specific as specifically clean energy, but it does include the construction or trades. It does include we do agree that there is a demand and a need to kind of upskill. And just like Excel has noted in this partnership, there is just a pipeline challenge sometimes for future workforce as well. So we have identified some similar demands. We don't have a request just like this. I will note that we do have some similar requests at some partner agencies as well. So Department of Commerce has done in the past some weatherization work. You may remember that from prior time at the legislature, and they have some requests at this legislative session as well. Similarly with the Department of Labor and Industry, who typically they take on the apprenticeship work. We do some pre-apprenticeship at DEED, but we don't do apprenticeship work directly with our trades. And so they've got some requests in a similar space in their budget as well. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful. You know, we work alongside many other agencies as we think about solving workforce challenges. I will note just a note that I brought down partially my computer because I am personally looking at, there's a report that you may have seen in the Star Tribune talking about economic inequalities among Minnesota's cultural groups. And I happened to be reading that while you were asking the question. And I do find there's a lot of information there. Giving me just a second here to just note that, I do find it really interesting. It's talking about a number of cultural groups with very, very low incomes and some of the reasons for that inequality, including challenges to reaching jobs. So I think our agency is very, very concerned about that, as well as, of course, there's other things called out in the report. Sorry, just point of personal privilege, I guess, even though I'm not on the floor, but just wanted to shout that out for this group if you haven't read that yet.
Representative Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I'm just trying to understand where that pinch point is. We've been trying to get workforce in this field for a number of years, and have we failed then what will this bill do if it's passed? Because it's a lot of money, $3.5 million to focus in on our BIPOC community to try to get them into the energy sector and to clean energy specifically. I almost find it almost too drill down, because we should have been doing it already. Because I think if there's a problem, then what's that problem? We got to get to that already. And that's something that DEED should be doing with their already, I think, their funding in many ways. So I just want to maybe better understand this bill, Mr. Chair, if this is going to move forward. I'd like to support something like this. I can't today, but I just want to understand how we can, find where is the problem now. I don't quite understand that. I think we are advertising, we're social media, we're doing everything we can to bring people into the field. But if it's certain specific training and we're not getting it to the communities of color, where are we missing that? Because it shouldn't just be this industry either, but this is a lot of money for a very specific thing. And if it's just because of the 100% carbon free, and if it's just, I think it's really getting narrowly focused on what DEED should be doing on a more broad based. I think that's kind of my only concerns on this, and I'd like to learn more about this. So I hope that we can find that at some point, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Baker. I would love to have follow-up conversations with you about this, and I think you say that it's drilled down. I mean, as you can see, originally it was asking for a larger appropriation, right? And we saw that Illinois, who passed similar climate legislation, is investing $40 million into this, right? So, you know, I think this could be a start. I think that there is room to do further investments. I think, you know, what the data shows us is two things, right? That we need more workers to be able to accomplish the goals that we have around climate justice, and that people of color and indigenous people are not represented currently in those fields. So I think to solve that problem, we're going to need a lot of stakeholders. We're going to need to do a lot of work. I see this bill as, you know, pretty narrow on a specific issue, which I think kind of relates to my last bill, and we're talking about, you know, the YMCA is a trusted partner to youth and families, and thus is great at kind of, you know, bringing youth into employment. I see this as a similar way this grant program would fund organizations that already have deep ties in the community that maybe are not part of the clean energy sector. And I think, you know, a lot of us are aware that the clean energy sector is not a sector that a lot of people of color and indigenous people can see themselves in, right? So to move into those sectors, to make the moves that we know people are going to need, sometimes they need that helping hand, that trusted organization. These are organizations that are not currently in that kind of workforce development, but maybe see the opportunity, want to develop programs. So I agree with you, something right now and kind of the pathway that we have to getting the workers we need is broken. And I see, you know, let's bring in the organizations that know these communities best to help us solve that problem. That's kind of the very narrow, I think, work that this bill is trying to do, but happy to have further conversations with you.
Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Sencer-Mura, for bringing this bill. I think it's a great step, and I think it's a proactive step. It wasn't surprising to me that the study that was mentioned that shows those disparities. I mean, in Minnesota, we know all the time. We see these rankings where we're ranked in the top 5 in places to live, top 5 in the place to get education, but then we drill down, and we always see great disparities. And along those disparities, BIPOC people always seem to fall in those disparities. Now, it is not happenstance. It is a historical thing. And I agree with Representative Baker that we should be trying to get at the root cause of that and make sure that it doesn't happen. But the fact of the matter is we have not done that. This is a bill. This is a program. This funding would go a ways toward doing it for the energy sector. It is something we need to do in many of our sectors all across the state, because that's why we have the disparities we have. So I'm encouraged by seeing this. I'm looking forward to investing in it. I hope we can invest in this. I think it's a good start. It's great what Illinois is doing. I think more states are going to start to do it. And also another fact of the matter is that we have to look at our demographics. Our demographics are shifting. When you look at our school-age children, look at who those students are. That is the future of our state. And we have to plan appropriately for the future of our state. And to do so, we must invest in the future of our state. So this is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Frazier. Representative Hassan. Nope, okay. Closing statement.
I thank members for the discussion today. I think, you know, with the climate policies that we are enacting and will need to enact in the future, we need to be simultaneously thinking about workforce and how do we bring people into that workforce. I see this bill as just kind of the start of some of those conversations, but the data speaks for itself. And I think the need that we have around, you know, climate policies and new industries, new jobs also speaks for itself. So look forward to continued conversation, and I hope we can include this in the omnibus bill. Thank you.
Representative Sencer-Mura will renew her motion that House File 1939 as amended be laid over for possible inclusion. Members, we will recess until 6 p.m. If you can't make it tonight, please inform our CA. Hope you are able to grab dinner and come back fully energized. We'll be meeting in this room again. Committee is in recess.